Good morning,
morning.
and welcome to the very first 2025 show of Money Truth Moments with our very own Money Truth expert and whisperer, Judy Copenbarger. How are you?
I'm so excited. That opening was so exciting. I like fire. Good morning. Good morning. I'm ready.
All right, yeah, I was saving that for our first launch of the show, and I'm like, okay, I got to surprise Judy, and we start out with 2025 with the just on fire for sure.
I love it. Have not seen it. And yes, I'm ready. That's great.
Excellent.
Great. Very
All right,
fun.
folks. If you're just joining us, welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you are new to the show, please make sure that you follow Judy at judycopenbarger.today. And you'll be able to see some of the previous episodes as well, too. Follow her on social media. It's all over Facebook and everywhere that you can connect. So with that said, what do you say we get started on the very first 2025 show? And we got a great one for you guys. You
And
ready?
I'm ready. And I cannot believe it's 2025. We waited to try to have a
Yeah.
new start. And here we are, new start, new year, new month, new everything. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's amazing how time flies, right? We talked about it halfway last year, and then all of a sudden here we are, right?
Here we are.
And today, since we are launching this for 2025, we're going to start off by talking about the new year, a new spending plan, because we don't say the B word anymore. If you remember that from previous episodes, there is no more budget. It's all gone, right? It's a spending plan. So
Budgets are out the window. Budgets are bad. B word, right? Those are gone. Spending plan. It's what we get to do, not what we can't do.
that's right. And so today we're going to talk about taking control of our finances. So why don't we start by why is the beginning of the year an ideal time to reset your budget?
Oh, we're resetting everything. We're resetting our families, we're resetting our diets, we're resetting our workout programs. Everybody's got resolutions, and it's just a really good time to think about. We closed out the year's books. Financially, a lot of things are wrapped up, and now it's just new start for so many areas of life. The kids have been off school. Now they go back to school, new semester. So it's a good time to start something new. So I would say a spending plan, same thing. It's like, what are we going to do this year? Because most people have a good handle on what they earned for the year, what they paid in taxes for the year, because this is the fiscal end for most people. And so it's just a really good time to reflect on those numbers and say, well, this year, what could we do more or better or different in 2025 to make this year end with a better feeling, a better outcome? And now's the time to do it. And spending is one of those areas that we have control. There are some things we can't really control, right? Some areas
Right.
of our health we can't control. It's genetic. Others that we can. But financially, same thing. It's one area we can have control of and we can squeeze a lot of juice out of that area of life by making small, fine-tune improvements. And this is a good time to get started.
So, having said that, and you obviously you've been an expert in this field for a long time, helping a lot of families, a lot of business owners, and so forth. And as you're talking about this, what are the key benefits, in your opinion, of creating that personal spending plan, right, for the new year? And what common financial habits should we start looking at incorporating as part of that?
Yeah, well, the first part of your question, planning is always good because you can help anticipate the outcome. You can have a really fair estimate of what's going to happen at the other end when you plan, just like a trip. If you got in the car and you said, let's take the trip, where it's going to be the best trip ever. Come on, kids, let's go. And you got 5 kids in the back of the Suburban and you just start driving. It's like, where are you going? What's the plan? Well, we're just going to take a trip. Well, where are we going? One of them wants to go to the water park. One of them wants to go to the beach. One of them wants to go to the mountains. One of them wants to go to the casino. It's like, where are we going to go? You got to have a plan. And same thing financially. If you have a plan, the outcome, can be there. The second part of your question was, what are the specifics? You asked about
Yeah,
this.
well, so getting into financial better practices, like financial habits that we should that the bad ones that we should leave behind and the good ones that we should focus on for 2025.
Habits. Well, that's a loaded question. There's so many, right? So many things.
Right.
Well, just in the area of the spending plan, it's just keep it doable. I think is kind of the best advice I could give you. So a spending plan is pliable. You're not going to have this exactly same dollar amount every month that you spend on groceries, for example, right? It's a moving, breathing thing. The budget, right? The B word. You're not going to spend exactly the same amount a month money every month on what you put in your tank, gas, or utilities even might vary. Now, some things are fixed, is fixed and flexible, fixed and flexible expenses every month. Fixed is your mortgage or your rent, doesn't change very often, right? If ever. Some of those things aren't going to change, but maybe you have a cell phone bill, it's the same, every month. This is your contract or your subscriptions, it's the same every month. But the flexible expenses, that's where we really have some wiggle room. What you spend going out, what you spend on clothing, on food, on travel, on fun things you're doing that are kind of extracurricular. Eating out and groceries is a big deal for most people. And I'm not sure why that's always the big line item budget. I think if we explore that, it's probably because it's so social. We have families in to spend family time and connect with them. We go out for social. There's usually a meal involved or a happy hour involved or something. Where we're consuming. So maybe that's why, because that's how we connect with other people around food. It's kind of interesting though when you think about it, but that's a big line item budget in a budget or a spending plan for a lot of people. So that's one where we can really make, some headway. And I think if you're looking at habits, one habit might be if we just make a habit of trying to cut 10% in those flexible expense categories. Let's just do 10% less in groceries, 10% less in entertainment and going out, 10% less in all those extra things, the clothing and the gadgets and the toys and all that stuff. If we just cut 10% and make that a habit to always reduce it, if it's an area of your life you need to work on, right? If there's like a bottleneck in your money right now, that might be a great habit to take on. Where can I cut? Where can I cut? And it sounds like from the news, the government's about to do that. Where can we cut? Where can we cut? Right? You hear about these crazy studies they spend millions of dollars on. It's like, well, they're looking at ways. How could we be more effective and efficient and not spend money where it's really not giving us a big bang for our buck and put it in other places? Do the same thing at home. It just makes a lot of sense.
And you're touching a little bit on some of the spending plan things. And actually, my question was going to follow up with this part was how do you create, or in your opinion, what should be some essential categories that every spending plan should include?
Well, the fixed expenses are, your housing and your transportation and your utilities and your cell phone and your communication, all those things you really can't do without this day and age, right? You've got to have those things. What you don't need to have is 23 subscriptions to the movie channels. Maybe you need them. Most people probably don't, they could do with less. All those extra things, do you really need the brand new iPhone or the brand new gadget that just came out? Do you have to have the brand new, newest one? If you're in tech, maybe you do. If it's part of your business or part of your education right now, maybe you do need those tools. But if it's just for fun, could you wait until the next edition comes out? Could you wait 6 months? And that's one thing our oldest son is really good about and has been since he was a kid. If I like it now, I'll love it later. Right? If I can wait, I really want to do it. He'd go visit the toy as an adult. He'd visit the car, he visits things that he wants to do or wants to buy. And then if I still really want to do it after I get home, cool off for 72 hours, I'll go back and I'll purchase it. I'm not going to lose it, right? It's not going to be lost ground floor opportunity or, there aren't any more left. And if they weren't, then you probably could have lived without it anyway. It's amazing. If you go to other countries, even Europe, first world countries, right? You go to other places and you see the things that they don't have in their stores. Like here we have Costco. Here we're on the coast. So we've got all these giant mega stores, big box, right? You've got Costco and you've got Target and Walmart. And these are big acres of shopping. When you go to Europe and anywhere really in the world, they're not that big. There's just a few things. So do you really need 47 choices of toothpaste? Right? Do you really need 85 choices of toilet paper? In other countries, they do without a lot of those things. You just have one or two, or maybe just a few brands of stuff, and the people are getting along just fine. Their teeth are clean, and they're taking care of business, and they don't need to have all of that. So what are we doing? Are we over-consuming, overspending? Maybe. It's worth checking in. Is there something a little bit less I could do with, still have a quality life, and maybe take some of the money that I was spending on that category and put it over in another category, for example, for your future. Most people say in their later years, I didn't save enough. I wish I'd started sooner. I wish I'd put a little more away. Well, here's how you can do it little bits along the way. You don't wait till you're 60 and go, oop, I shoulda, right? These little bits along the way. Instead of going out to a movie, 4 times a month, what if you went out 3 times a month and the fourth time you watched Netflix and made your own popcorn? You just save $50 or a lot more than that, if you have a family. So put that into your future, pay yourself. And when you ask about, line items and habits you can have, every month put yourself on the spending plan. There's a line item for Judy's future, or there for Carlos's future. And pay yourself just like you pay the mortgage and everybody else. Pay yourself too, and put that money away and leave it alone.
And it's you've talked about this before too, but I think it's a good transition to ask you also, like, what percentage of your income should you ideally be saving each month, right? And then also as part of that is that also goes into play with what you talked about with buckets is unexpected expenses that you might account for the year, or you may know that it's coming up, like tire changes or things like that too. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, that should be a line item. The unexpected. Expect the unexpected. The garbage disposal goes out, or you have a flat tire, or the rock goes through the windshield, and you have a co-payment on that or deductible on that. You want to always have money available for that, so you don't end up running to credit cards and then paying the extra interest. You're going to pay double for that item. So that's one line item that you can also have. And you mentioned something else. You mentioned what was the first thing that you mentioned? It was great.
It's great. If you're dealing with this and doing with the spending plan, what percentage of income should you ideally be saving each month?
The percentage, absolutely. I would say for most people, a rough goal would be about 10%. If you could work up to 10%. And a lot of people at work, they have like a 403B or a 401k program where if they put in 3 or 4%, the company will match it. Or they might even have options to buy stock. If they work for a large corporation that offers public stock, they can buy some of that at a discount. Those are great things to do. And even if you started that, let's say 4% and they match, now you're at 8, that would be ideal. You'll probably be okay for retirement if you do that your whole career. But ultimately, you want to take it up. And I challenge people to say, okay, if you're putting 5% away, next year, challenge yourself to put 5.5 or 6% away. And then next year, take it up 1 more percent. You probably won't miss it, especially if there are raises along the way or COLA increases in your income. Every year, put 1 more percent away until you get to 10%. And you'll probably be golden if you do early enough in life, because then you have time. Your money has time to work. If you're doing it later in life, you might need to increase that a little bit. That means cut back somewhere else, maybe a few less cruises along the way, a few less something. What's interesting and what we found in our life is we were raising 5 children. So we educated them and we helped launch them and get them in businesses and help them go. And then all of a sudden, our income was higher than it was 25 years ago, but our outgo was lower because now we're not supporting all the children. They're on their own and doing well. And so now the income that we have is like, oh, so we can catch up. So sometimes that's possible later in life once those big expenses of raising a family are done, maybe even downsizing. A lot of people will move to a smaller home. We actually did. We got more land and less house. Well, now we're kind of collecting small houses, but because the kids want to be near, but we have more land and less house. And so the expenses are very different than they were in those years when we had, kids in college and kids in sports and high school and travel ball and all of that. So it can change, but the long-winded answer, and if you boil that down, I would say start with something 2 or 3%. If you've never done this before, pay yourself for the future retirement or future savings for that emergency fund you talked about. And I would shoot ultimately for 10%. If you can get there, you're going to be part of that group that in their 50s, they go, oh, I can join, the country club or start cruising or, take up a hobby like, that costs a lot, like skiing or something, right? So those are the people that do well. They save a little bit over a long time.
So let's talk about, there's a new section of our show, folks. It's practical advice with Judy on here. So I'm going to ask you a question under this advice, right? So how can someone, or how can our viewers or listener stay motivated to stick to their spending plan throughout the year?
Oh, you just got to keep your eye on the ball. Imagine the future with you in it. Imagine, here I am. It's Christmas time, 2025. And I have all the money I need to entertain my family, to travel if we're traveling, to buy all the gifts and not ever pull a credit card out of my wallet because I planned ahead. What would that feel like? Imagine yourself with that output in the future, the outcome that you planned for. I think that helps motivate people. And then revisit that. Maybe you need to revisit it every month. Maybe you need to, there's power in your words, like saying things, something happens when you say things, it happens. If you just talk about it, it doesn't happen. If you write it down, it happens. It's something about getting it out of your body. I don't know what it is, but most, motivational gurus will say that's true, something true about that. So find someone to discuss it with, have an accountability partner. If it's not your financial partner or your family or your spouse or whoever you're doing life with, find someone else at your, in your community somewhere, maybe at your church or at your work or in your, whatever group you're in, maybe your book club, and say, hey, I want to every month go over my spending plan with you, show you how I've made improvements over this month where I could have spent, but I didn't, and what my plans are for this month, the trouble that I see coming. We've got 4 birthdays in our family this month. And I can see how we could overspend doing that. But here's my plan to not overspend. Keep me accountable. And having an accountability partner, and you can have a professional coach do that, but most people are happy to do it with you, right? So if you find another person that's on this same journey that wants to do better with their money, partner with them and have that accountability and say, here's what the plan is for the month. And then just do that. And when you stumble, because you will, and things will come up that you didn't expect, when you stumble, have a better plan for next time when that happens. And then you just get better. Here's the thing. If you get 1% better every day, if there's just one thing, 1% that I could do better tomorrow than today, like it's windy, grab a sweater, throw it in the back of the car. It's going to rain, grab an umbrella, throw it in the car. That's 1%, right? It wasn't a lot, but it made me better. If you do 1% every day better, you are more than triple the end of the year better than you are today. Right?
That's awesome.
You can pick different areas of life to do it. If some of those are financial, imagine where you'll be in a year. Just fine-tuning some of these things. And the best way to start is with your spending plan. That's what you control every day. Money comes in and goes out almost every day at your house. And you can control that, and you can make a big difference for 2025 by just getting a handle on that budget, that spending plan, and making a big difference. New year, new budget. You have control. You should take that control.
Awesome. And folks, thank you for joining us today. If you're not following Judy, please do so, judycopenbarger.today. Those of you that have followed us and followed us throughout the years, you guys know what time it is, right? The first 2025 challenge. I'm dying to know, how are we going to set the tone for the year?
Okay, well, it's time to get out that old spending plan and dust it off. If you've never created one, grab a template, just Google simple budget, and you'll find, 5,000 of them. Don't pay for anything. Don't subscribe to anything. Just make a very simple spending plan and write out the fixed expenses every month that don't change. Write out the flexible expenses that do change. Write what you're spending now, roughly. And this is a great exercise because sometimes you'll say, oh, I spend $500 a month on groceries. And you go back over the last 2 months and go, no, I don't. Right. It's a whole lot more than that. A whole lot more than that on some of these categories, especially in the last few years where things, costs have changed for things. But it would be a great exercise to do that. Take an old budget and spruce it up or make a brand new one. And then get your accountability partner. Set a time and a date where you're going to discuss this at least once a month. Quarterly would be okay. But if you're new at this, maybe every month, just say, hey, sometime in the first 3 days of the month, we're going to connect for a half hour and talk about what happened last month and what the plans are for this month. That's your challenge.
All right, folks, you heard the challenge. And as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. I'm sure that Judy would be more than happy to answer some of the questions that come up as well. And if you're not following her again, make sure you do so at judycopenbarger.today. We have some great shows coming up in the next several weeks, several months. And if you also have some suggestions that you want to have Judy talk about, please make sure you let us know as well. So with that said, this wraps up our very first show of the year. Any last parting words?
Make it a great brand new week, brand new month, brand new quarter, brand new year. It's going to be awesome.
All right, folks. We'll see you guys. Remember, Tuesday mornings, 8 a.m., replays on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Until next week, take care, Judy.
Bye bye.